Good afternoon. It's 1400. Welcome to Corporate Services, the Financial Resilience Service Transformation Committee. Any apologies for absence, please?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Any disclosures of personal or prejudicial interests? None to note. And then we move on to item 3, minutes, to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, which was held on the 12th of December 2023. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. Any matters arising, please? Councillor Joy?
Yes, I'm not on there as being present. I was present at the last minute meeting.
Chair, thank you, Councillor Joy. Apologies to you. I will. I have updated our system, and I will mention it in the minutes for this occasion. Sorry about that.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. Any other observations, or can we have a mover then, please? Erica, please, Councillor Kirshner, and a seconder, please. Councillor Walton? Yes, yeah, Leslie. Thank you. And then we move on to item 4 on the agenda, workforce and OD transformation program progress, leadership and management development. I believe Rachel's here to deliver the policy. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. So I thought it'd be helpful to start the session by just giving a bit of a recap around the background to the workforce strategy and how it's monitored. So we have a workforce and OD transformation programme board. It's led by the Deputy Leader, Councillor Hopkins, and it meets quarterly to set the direction, agree the objectives and actions, and monitor progress. So the items that are contained within the report in front of you today have been agreed at that programme board. And there's a number of commitments within there, and the ones that we are looking at for the first 12 to 18 months under each of our 4 key themes are detailed today. So leadership and management is one of those 4 key themes within the workforce strategy, and we have set ourselves 8 objectives under that theme. And the 4 that we have been currently looking at under leadership and management are around the council's values and behaviours, a social partnership framework with trade union representatives, a revised communications and engagement strategy for the workforce, and continuation of our coaching and mentoring programme, which has completed its first cohort. So we have made some really good progress in those areas. Some of the detail is contained within the report that you have. We have completed the values and behaviours refresh. This hasn't involved an exercise to start from scratch. This has been around how can we embed and work with the values that we've got to make them more noticeable and accessible across different strands of workforce and engagement items. There is a session due to take place with Cmmttee and leadership in early February, whereby we will be taking the final version of that values and behaviours piece of work to them for commentary and hopefully approval and sign off. For example, that piece of work contains the design of some iconography to go with each of the values. We've worked closely with Design Print to come up with a creative to show if we're going to talk about working together or being innovative, what icons could we possibly use for those themes that the workforce could quickly and easily see and understand and recognise if we were to roll them out in different areas of workforce items. So we're hoping that that's going to be ready for launch in very good time for the end of the financial year. On the social partnership framework, again, we've made some good progress here, and we've got a draft that's being shared with the trade unions for their views, their contribution. So we're at that meaningful consultation point with them. And in addition to that framework, we've also got a JCC review of the terms of reference, and our first meeting is tomorrow morning to look at how we can update the terms of reference for that forum. The comms and engagement strategy, again, that's been completed, it's drafted, it's gone through various stakeholder groups, including our employee engagement group, to get their feedback on whether that framework works. And again, that's due to be launched shortly. I'm pleased to also report that we've been able to free up some capacity to work on other projects under leadership and management that weren't necessarily within our first tranche. So we've been able to do more with the management development programme as an example, and you'll see within the report what we have managed to do is not only put forward a suggestion for cohort 2 of the existing ILM level 5 management and development qualification that we are putting on, but think more carefully around how can that be expanded and rolled out to other layers within the organisation. So the 2 courses that we've been able to work very closely with our partner Gower College on building and developing are a level 2 and a level 3 programme for either newly appointed managers who might never have been in a supervisory role before, to help them on their journey as a new manager, what the expectation is, what type of leadership skills we would want them to be displaying, but also to go further than that, to approach our aspiring managers, people that might never have thought about going into that type of role, and to give them encouragement and support to test out their own skills, knowledge and experience, and help them on that journey. So we will have a staggered tier of different entry points to leadership and development. So those are ready to start. And again, our leadership and CMT session in early February will be going through each of those programmes and looking for support from colleagues to implement those. They are fully funded by the college, so there would be no financial implication for us to make a start on those programmes, and I think would show the wider workforce that our training and development offer is not targeted just at managers. We want to encourage people from all layers and levels in the organisation to put their hand up and have a go and show an interest. And it might not be for everybody, but if we're able to capture the engagement of even a few, then that would be worthwhile doing for us to grow our own in the future. We've also started work on another project that's in the workforce strategy but wasn't in our priority tranche, as I said, because we've been able to identify some capacity around development needs analysis. So this project centres around understanding what is the gap that we've got currently between the skill set that our existing workforce has and what we know we might need for the future, and then how can we plan some actions to close that gap. Now, we don't want to roll out a council-wide programme without testing it. We want to make sure that it works for service areas and departments, and isn't a burden that's put on managers and teams to complete. So we do have a ready, willing and able volunteer service area who has said, we'd really like to understand early on what our potential gap is. We'd like to test it out, give you some feedback in HR, and then if you need to make some tweaks to that approach before it goes any wider. So again, that started that piece of work, and we're expecting to be able to see some results again by the end of the financial year for that. And then finally, some other pieces that the organisation development team have been able to work on alongside our 4 projects are in the realms of our corporate induction. So we have a newly designed corporate induction for new starters that's almost ready to go. Sets the tone of our expectations, what your learning and development opportunities can look like in Swansea Council. And we will be also promoting Academy Wales as a useful tool for management development. Many offerings from Academy Wales are free. It's an organisation that provides excellence in leadership courses, either by coming to us directly or by individual employees nominating themselves and applying to go on various development opportunities. And they're all about delivering excellence in public sector leadership across Wales. So again, lots of their offerings are fully funded or there's a nominal cost. So in our February conversation with leadership and CMT, I'll be talking to them about the different options available to get their engagement to try something different. We've also got 2 more things that have been worked on or are nearing completion. We've worked on a learning and development framework, which outlines the various steps through from apprenticeship qualifications right the way up to higher education study, and everything in between that the council is able to support and offer on occasions, so that the workforce can get the right skills, knowledge and competence to be able to deliver services. And finally, we have put together a new learning and development activity booklet brochure, and that's an electronic tool which shows all of the learning and development that you can get as an employee in the council, whether that's access to Welsh language courses or whether that's explaining about our e-learning offering. And we have scope to be able to bring in other areas of the council into that document, such as health and safety training, for example. And again, when we demo that and show it, the content, to leadership and Cmmttee in February, we're hopeful that the suite of things that are being put forward will be broadly supported, perhaps with a couple of changes, so that we can roll out a lot of this content before the end of the financial year. So we're on track in delivering against the objectives so far. There are no concerns around failure to deliver. There are no concerns around capacity not being able to agree to the objectives that are outlined in the strategy. And indeed, you know, we've made good progress in moving further ahead with things that are not on the current 12 to 18 month list, so that when we come round at the end of year one and review the whole programme in its entirety, there are things that we will be able to tick off and say we've been able to implement these earlier than planned. I'm very conscious that I've thrown a lot of detail at you there, so apologies for that very, very quick and full explanation. But if there are questions or clarifying information that I can give to you, I'd be very welcome to hear them, but also really open to understanding your commentary around suggestions for us to look at for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions? Sorry, David.
Yeah, sorry, not so much a question, but if I could just come in before the questions, in reality, just say, look, I'm quite proud of the work we've done. We have identified we have got an ageing workforce. So we, in 2022, when we signed up for the for our workforce strategy, we meant it. We've done a lot of work since then. I'm pleased to say that we are on track, particularly with this target of leadership and management. But this is just part of what we are trying to do, and making sure we are a workforce, you know, that's fit for the future and an employee of choice. Now, I think terms and conditions are very important in that. So it's not just about the financial rewards; it's about your working conditions and the add-ons that come with it. So I'm quite keen, you know, what we are trying to do is empower our own workforce, take the workforce with us, and particularly get succession planning in place, because growing your own, in my opinion, is always better than looking for sometimes the external market, because it gives that leadership and that joint up thinking that we you know, this is a place I want to stay and want to work with forever. So to me, that's very, very important. And I really, really think we've done some extremely good work on this one, particularly a coaching and mentoring programme as well. So, and this is done in partnership with Gower College and others. But one thing I will say, and I think the social partnership that's been touched on is such an important part of this work as well, with our trade union movement and taking the workforce with us. It is so great to see that now empowerment and that way that we are working with the trade unions in a very proactive manner, in a true social partnership agenda. In my last meeting with the trade unions in education, they're very keen to see the rollout there. At the moment, education isn't covered in that strategy, but it's something that their trade unions are particularly looking to take forward. So you can see it is working, it is better. And the word JCC was just mentioned. For many years, JCC has been a committee where papers are just presented there. What we're trying to do is make that more of a workshop where councillors and unions come together to try to look at policies in a very proactive manner and make betterment, particularly within policy. So a lot of work going on. I think Rachel has really, really led on this, and it's quite an exciting lot of work that's going on within HR at the moment. So well done to you all within HR.
Councillor Hopkins, any more questions or observations? Councillor Bentu, please. Are you patient?
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if resources are made available to participants after graduation that they can always sort of fall back to if they need it in the future. And sorry if I missed out on that in the report.
No, that's fine. So I suppose our offer is never closed to individuals. Learning is a continuous journey, and it would be great to have individuals that are happy to build on both the learning and the qualifications that they obtain and seek to continuously improve. So we wouldn't say if somebody had gone through a specific route that therefore they'd had their share and they were precluded from then being able to sign up for something new in the future. Obviously, there are a finite amount of places that are available on each of our offerings, and so we would have to make sure that there is fairness across the whole range of council departments where people are interested. But no, we certainly wouldn't say that once you've had access to one thing that you wouldn't be able to then draw on it. And we'd probably encourage some of the routes. If we have now this ILM level 3 for first newly appointed managers, once they'd completed that, it would make a lot of sense for us to try and encourage them to then go on to coaching and mentoring. So something that's slightly different, but builds on what they've done. So we have to balance, the number of places we have with the demand across the council, but also encourage people to continue with their learning.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Walton, Leslie?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It just occurred to me, is there any part of this that also looks at how would-be interviewers are trained in taking on staff and progressing their leadership and their sort of career path, as it were?
Yes, so under recruitment, there would be separate manager, more operational training on how to enact our policies and our procedures. We offer that for a different number of situations. Redundancy processes might be one, investigations might be another, having difficult conversations might be a third. So yes, in terms of recruitment specifically, that would feature under one of the other themes in the workforce strategy. So employer of choice is a theme in its own right, and we've got a big piece of work on recruitment that's under that theme in terms of reviewing the way in which we bring people into the organisation, potentially different selection exercises that can be used, etc. And the manager training would probably fit quite nicely under that employer of choice theme, possibly more so than under the management and leadership, but they are of course very carefully and closely linked.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Francesca? Hi, Fran.
Sorry, apologies, I was late for a couple of minutes, but more of an observation really. I think that's excellent work, and just to sort of comment on Councillor Hopkins's sort of observations as well, and how important this work is, because I think staff feel valued if we're investing in their opportunities, their progression, qualifications, which maybe at school or in their young years perhaps they didn't have those opportunities. So I think staff retention is really important, and to have good quality staff, because I think we can see now there's a lot of companies looking for staff and good quality ones. We don't want them going elsewhere. We want to retain them and to keep them qualified. So I think well done to everyone involved, really. And I hope that it grows over the next few years.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to say probably what's been said. An excellent piece of work. I was here in the early stages, sitting on joint consultative, and we've progressed and we've got structure on that committee. The trade unions are on board, which is excellent, because obviously in the trade union world, we know where we are with, the legal side of things and the logistics that are coming down from the government. So excellent piece of work. Trade unions, every member of staff on board, opportunities, development, mentoring. It ticks every single box. And if we can encourage one to stand forward and say, I'd like to take part. That's massive, and we are delivering that. So an excellent piece of work, you know, and delivering for the organisation and for our staff, you know, for a bigger and better city. So thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Thank you, Rachel. And let's continue with this good work. But thank you, and thank you for coming here today to deliver this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
And then we move on to item 5, medium-term financial plan update, and we'll move to Ben Smith, please. Hiya, Ben.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. As you'll see, this is a for information report, and I'm going to repeat some of the advice I gave at the last but one committee. I'm keen to give you sight of what is live and happening as we speak, but it is in a very crowded space, as I think the committee acknowledged last time. Council setting is a matter reserved. Budget setting is a matter reserved for council in March, and there is quite a crowded space between the special cabinet from a week and a half ago through a number of meetings, statutory and informal and consultative, with staff, affected trade unions, school budget forum, etc., and a whole raft of scrutiny panels and scrutiny sessions to go. So I don't anticipate going into great detail, but I was keen to give you sight of the report as soon as it was available, and perhaps to just pause and reflect on what, as I say, is a crowded marketplace and also an interesting one given your remit and where the public finances are as a whole. I think pretty much every council in Wales has deferred its budget strategy this year, and so in reality the first, second and third week of January has been very, very congested across all authorities in Wales. We happen to be one of those that went in week 2. The budget initial proposals are out live, and it is fair to say that there are concerns around the overall capacity and funding in the system. The degree to which you are able to learn from others or shape from others is limited, given everyone has deferred their budget round, and the reality is, whilst it's pleasing to have a settlement in line with what we expected and were promised a couple of years ago from Welsh Government, it doesn't really touch the size of any of the pressures that any authority faces. I think there is also an interesting balance to be struck, thinking about the previous item, where for the last 3 years we've had relative generosity of settlements from Welsh Government and an ability to create the Economic Recovery Fund to be able to divert money into IT transformation and indeed into HR transformation, whereas we move into a position now with much tighter budget parameters that it is clear that I'm having to give advice to Cabinet and in due course to Council that reserves will need to be drawn down just to try and manage the competing pressures on all services. Audit Wales will be commencing another review of financial resilience. Pan Wales, they have taken the opportunity in the last week or so to update their assessment based on balance sheet exercises of each authority in Wales. That's exciting for anoraks like me because it's a data dump with no written narrative whatsoever. Probably not the most riveting of reads for any normal person. But I do keep an eye on them because it does help give me some assurance. And so, for example, I know we are relatively well endowed with absolute reserves, relatively well endowed in terms of relative reserves, but we're seeing those reserves come down. We remain very cash rich compared to other authorities, but equally there are concerns around the levels of debt committed to already continue to be built up and the affordability of servicing them over the coming years. And I think it's interesting because some of that relative headroom has enabled council to make choices over freeing up sums for items that have just been talked about in terms of the Economic Recovery Fund. And to some extent, we've had some luxury of being able to do some of the transformation at our own time of choosing for the right aims of improving, getting better, learning from others. But we're probably moving more rapidly into a situation where the lack of money forces us to do things faster than would otherwise necessarily be the case. It does feel a bit full circle. I am trying to remain positive in a challenging environment, but I do acknowledge that there's a limited amount of flax I can spin into gold. But that's just the reality of what we're facing. I think everyone's got relative pain to come, and there will be an awful lot of lobbying to come, and I'm sure there will be many media stories on an overall set of things around levels of likely council tax increase, levels of funding, pressures in the system, who's got what in terms of debt, borrowing, etc., etc. I still do think at the moment it's a little bit early for anything for yourselves to contribute in a very crowded space. I think the next work programme into the next year will be maybe of some more interest when there'll be an opportunity to pause and draw breath and work out what we and others face, simply because it does feel tighter than it has been for a number of years. Often things come round full circle and things might have different names, but it does feel quite austere at the moment. I know the leader's not here, the deputy leader is here. He and I have had a bit of a role reversal. For those of you that were in the council chamber will know I've tried to be Mr. Positive and optimistic, and the leader's slightly more cautious. We remain waiting to see what happens on the 6th of March with the UK budget, next lot of announcements. There will be lots of lobbying of Welsh Government as to whether there's any more money. Frankly, I suspect there isn't any more money in the pot. There may be some choices at the margin, but I think it's undoubtedly the case we have some really challenging times ahead. We try to make the best fist of it we can. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what others do over the next couple of weeks and months around the differences that emerge in terms of strategies over how much people are prepared to deploy in terms of reserves to protect services, what the political appetite is for levels of council tax increase, and certainly some of my concerns longer term, which will be echoed by many members, if not all members, is some of that long-term planning stuff around the commitments to carbon zero, the green agenda, and where the money comes for those. But also the MTFP, as refreshed, will take us through to 27-28. You'll be aware from discussions in council there have been discussions around the affordability of the current capital programme through to 2028 and the use of the reserves to 2030. It won't be long before we'll be into the next wave of bidding with Welsh Government for match funding for the next wave of school building all the way through to 2033. And as I say, those well-intentioned, well-needed green agenda items through carbon zero commitments to 2030 and 2050 will likely come with some quite big bills attached to them. And at the moment, whilst they go beyond our medium-term financial plan, I am starting to remind colleagues that next year's will include 28, 29, 29, 30. We're getting very, very close to some of those 2030 commitments. And there will be some interesting discussions as to how some of the aspirations set out by our masters are funded in reality when there is a choice between the here and now and a cost of living crisis and a whole raft of things we have to do to try and avoid a tipping point with the planet. So I think that's probably all I need to say in terms of a positioning piece. In terms of the overall position, I was just keen to make sure that you had sight of the latest live stuff, but I repeat the advice I gave previously, which is it is in a very crowded marketplace at the moment. I think there is still some debate and discussion to be had to work out what exactly you can do and best when timing wise, given the whole budget cycle has been delayed across the whole of Wales and the UK. And literally no sooner will be, because as you will be aware, council is going to be brought forward to the 6th of March. It's going to be the same day as the UK budget. I hope there's nothing too exciting in the UK budget in case I have to redo all the numbers on the day and present them on screen yet again. I've joked in previous years I've had to turn up and say it's a budget stuck together with fuzzy felt and get me Velcro out. There is always that danger. I only jest slightly because the reality is that's normally it's more of a fiscal event, normally the UK budget, and it's less to do with public spending. We've had that with the autumn budget statement in November. And I think it's safe to say relatively disappointing in terms of overall funding for public services, but that's all I'm prepared to say because otherwise it gets into the realms of the politics of it. I'll pause there, Chair. Happy to take questions or comments, but hopefully tried to lighten the mood ever so slightly in terms of what is undoubtedly a set of very, very challenging circumstances that you'll be wrestling with, whole council will be wrestling with, and every council up and down the land will be wrestling with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions, observations? Thank you, Ben. You bring a light to my life again. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming here today. I know your time is very precious to you, but you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you, Chair.
So thank you. You got away easy again today, but thank you.
I did. I got the gift of the gab, and then the members are ever so polite. I tried to make them chuckle ever so slightly in what are difficult times. I think I have got away quite lightly. So I'll take your kind invitation to recognise my time is busy on other matters, and with your forbearance, I will escape to other things. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, Ben. Thank you. And then we have the work plan going forward. Nothing in for 27th of February.
Chair, the item that was scheduled for the 27th of February was dealt with today in relation to the medium-term financial plan update. I don't believe there is anything for discussion at the 27th. Perhaps Mr. Wenham could confirm.
Yeah, at the minute, that's where we are. Will you go ahead with the meeting then, Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 27th. We've completed our work. We got the end of year financial report, which obviously I've started a bit of work on, and with support from others, obviously we'll deliver that as soon as we can, because I don't want to be last minute. You know, come into to this meeting with the financial report. Ben's a baby on that, not me. With the end of year report. So we'll just stress now to deliver that preparation of the annual report. That's the 23rd of April. If anything does come in as a priority, then we slot it into 27th. But to date, there's nothing for the 27th of February. The work's been completed. Yeah. Oh,
Do you want me to cancel the meeting now, Chair, or would you want me to hold it until a bit closer?
hold it for maybe 2 weeks and see if anything comes in.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. And that's close of business today. Thank you for your attendance. Take care. Don't go out in the wind and the rain. Stay home. And I'll see you very soon. Take care all. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chair.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.